Hi, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. We'll just wait a couple minutes to see if anyone else pops on before we get going.
Okay, no worries.
Do you have any listings coming up that you're needing help with?
No, no, I like literally just started this week. My license is still inactive, but hopefully comes active in the next few days.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So we should have a couple more people. I know there is another training or class going on today right now.
Okay.
So just sit tight for a few more minutes. All right. Well, we'll just kind of get going and introduce you to a few new things. So today's topic is NC listing forms. And so we'll be going through the different listing forms, and also I'll show you where like checklists are and things in our office and different sites that you can use as resources. We have quite a few of them, which are awesome.
Okay.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen. So one of our we have our very own website here for our office called kwbresources.com, and there is a passcode to get in there, and we can assist you with that if you don't have it. But in here, our general forms, office checklists, South Carolina forms. If you go on these tabs, there's different things, and there's training in here. Here's where I got this, was the forms and checklists. So there's just all kinds of great things. If for training, you can find, the calendar here, what's going on, and the links to join or where it's going to take place. Anyway, so back to forms and checklists. So for our North Carolina forms, or for the process, there's two different things. There's this pre-listing package here, which I think is great because it just kind of goes through, this is South Carolina, but there's a North Carolina one. Contract to close here. This must be the sellers here. So it talks about the different things you do. And we'll kind of be actually going through a lot of this as we talk about our forms here today. But this is a great place. One of the things for compliance within our office that we need to do is we have checklists. So this one here will be for the North Carolina. You can see the state on here, and the other ones will have, South Carolina, if they are, for that. So back to the checklist here, this is a great thing. It's also online here with Command. So if you go into Command and you get on one of your files here, it will have the same type of checklist, just in the electronic format. This is a great one to have out when you first do something, so you can kind of check things off by yourself. But within the first 3 days, we have to submit these things here, anything that we do. And then between like, you know, the beginning and, you know, no later than 7 days before closing, you want to make sure the rest of these things are in. And then it talks about once you close, these are the things that are due. So we'll go through these as well in our training today. And then once you have a sale, so once you get listed and then you get under contract, this is the listing sale here checklist. So this is what you need to turn in for compliance during being under contract and then closing. So those are 2 great forms, and we'll kind of go back and forth to those. We also, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we have our KW, the back agent, basically. If you go to mykw.com, mykw.kw.com, and then it'll take you to this website is where I came first. That's mykw.com. You have to log in. And then when you go down here to MyKW, our market center is 350. We have our own intranet. So when I click on there, that's how I came to this last place. So once you go in here, this is kind of like office messages and stuff like that. But if you go to Market Center and then Documents, you'll be able to come across other checklists and stuff. This was prior to our new KWB resources website. So there's still some great things in here that might help you out through time. But the KW resources one has a ton of things in it, up to date. Like I think it's probably only maybe a year or 2 old at the most. There's on-demand training in there, which is great too. So when I opened up checklists, I pulled a couple of them. One of them was that same one that we just looked at, and the other one, so some of them are duplicates. But this takes you through the tasks and, you know, when to complete them. So this is a great thing to review, to know like step by step and be able to be proactive throughout the process in doing so. So there's also a form in there called a pre-listing pack, and this is a good resource of things. We're going to talk about all this, and it's kind of like a duplicate of each thing. So this one is a little more in depth of things that you'll need to consider when listing a property. So I do recommend using this one. Just to help out. And you know what, I'll put my email address in the chat here so we can you can email me if you want any of these or need help with it.
Okay.
There you go. Back to there. So working with real estate agents are some of the first things. It's a form. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. This one.
I have bought/sold 4 houses personally, so very familiar with a lot.
Okay, good. Okay, great. So you're familiar. So this is that working with real estate agents disclosure. Well, you know, this one is for the buyer. I don't know why that's in there, but there's one that says for sellers too. So you would just check off, it'll say seller's agency, dual agency, or designated. We can, you know, these all may apply, definitely not unrepresented, and then the sellers would sign that. Question and answers on home inspections. In DocuSign, all of these things, not the warranty brochures, but sample offer to purchase, sample professional services, these are all in DocuSign as well. So typically I print those out or download them and email them to the clients. Everyone's different, and I think probably the best thing is to say, you know, communicate or present to your clients on whatever level they're at. So sometimes, I mean, I prefer to do it in email or digitally, just because then it's all there. They can, you know, it's convenient for everyone, and it's documented. So yes, I did email you this, and yes, I did, you know, supply you with this, or whatever. You have the tracking of that. But I do have clients that I've had to print things, go meet, get, you know, wet signatures. So you kind of have to do whatever is going to work best with your client and kind of whatever you prefer. So if you would rather, bring a folder of papers and meet with people, that's, everyone has a better way that they work or that they prefer to work. So, but anyways, these are all in DocuSign, so you can pull them from there and then download and attach them. We have to get the residential property disclosure, the lead-based paint if it applies to a home that's built prior to 1978. The MOG security system disclosure, I would say that's if it applies. Utilities list, and that's a good thing to know. You may know them already, which is fine, but if you're unfamiliar, it's a good thing to ask the seller who the utilities are through. So this may be something you supply them with prior to going. That way, if they have any questions on them, you can answer them, and especially on the disclosures, because sometimes people don't think about what age the things are or what type they are. And so when it comes time to fill them out, it's, that way they're a little more prepared to answer things correctly. So then when you meet with them or you interact with getting signatures, you'll do the working with real estate agents, the exclusive right to sell. That's a listing agreement, a coming soon no-show if it applies, or a firm exclusive if it applies. And sometimes both of those can, and I'll show you how to do that. This professional services disclosure, if they're going to waive anything, I typically use this more with buyers. So say like you're supposed to have an inspection and they decided not to do a certain one, like radon, then you can say they waived it. A seller's net sheet to get them approximate proceeds. The MLS data worksheet. So it's a good thing to have like this, maybe print it out and take it with you, or go over that way you can get the details of their home. So as it applies to how to input it into MLS, because there's certain fields and descriptions that they have, you have to check things that are required. So it's good to know those so you can input it into Matrix correctly. Graph paper for measurements. I don't really do those. I do have, I have a measuring person. Well, there's a few, but Measure America is a good one for steel tape measuring, are typically easy to coordinate with. If it's say a ranch home, that's pretty, square, that you can do the dimensions pretty easily, and you choose to do that, great. We're responsible for it. So if it's got, bay windows or 2-story here and there, bump outs and stuff like that, it's probably a best practice to get professional measurement taken care of. Communication logs. So, just keeping track of what's happening when, and a lot of that these days is via email and text. So things to collect from the seller. So of course that disclosure, and we just FYI, we are not allowed to fill this out for them in any capacity. So, often we're here there for a resource to answer, how to best mark yes or no, or what this question really means. Sometimes they can be confusing, but we're not allowed to mark on that, the property disclosures at all. So,
Okay.
Also, we're not allowed to give, and this has happened where, say you have a listing and somebody wants to see it, but they don't have an agent, but they don't want to use you as an agent, but they want to make an offer. We are not allowed to give out our North Carolina realtor forms. So
Okay.
you have to be an agent to utilize that. So either you write it for them or they figure out how to get you an offer. So collecting from the seller is, getting those things signed correctly, and they may need a little coaching through that. The septic or sewer agent discovery, I'll show you that form, but basically we just need to know if it's connected to city, the house has city water and sewer connection, or septic and well, and either getting documentation from the seller on that, or this also happens by calling the county or the water company. I typically can do that if they don't have it handy. So the security system, if it's, staying with the home or not, and any info on that, and the utilities list, we talked about that. Collecting and making copies. So the covenants and restrictions for HOAs are pretty common. Hopefully sellers have that, or they have a connection with the HOA where they can call or email. Typically they can log in on the site and get them. If they don't, maybe it will be good to bring that up to help them call or get them ahead of time, because there are services that we can get them from. However, they charge us, and it's usually quite a bit. So it's best to get those through the seller if possible.
Okay.
So a deed, this, you can get this through attorney too, and title, this one here too, title on the property. Just if it's pretty straightforward and you know, then great. But if there's been anyone that's maybe passed away, or it's been left to somebody, or something like that, or change in marital status, perhaps, you might want to check in with attorney on the deed and the title, if there's anything on there. If they have a copy of a survey, for instance, the one I just did, they have a survey. The house is, I think 18, 19 years old. So the original survey they have, their original owners, has no fences on it. There's nothing, no additions or anything like that. Since they have a fence and a screened porch and a covered patio. So those aren't going to be reflected on there. The only use it really provides is that there's, it doesn't show any easements at that time, or it does show the property line. So that'll be good for somebody to envision if they needed it. But as far as like it would be best for a new buyer. I always recommend buyers get surveys of their own, because it ensures the highest title policy should there be a claim in the future. But if they have it, great. That's something good to collect and add. A copy of any recent appraisals. This could be good for two reasons. Well, one, because hopefully they haven't had a FHA or VA within the last 6 months, because that does stick with the property, which will, kind of could carry over in another sale. But that also helps if they do have good measurements on there. You may be able to use that measurement, instead of hiring somebody. But if it's questionable or anything, it's best to get your own, because like I said, we're responsible for that. If the home has a lease on it, that does carry over. Like the lease goes with the new owner has to honor it. So if there are any leases, you need to be knowledgeable of that, and portray it correctly to the purchasing party as well. Copy of the tax bill. So you can typically find this in Matrix under I thought I had logged in. Apparently I didn't. Okay. Hang on a sec. I don't know what it's doing. There we go. All right, let me share again. So in Matrix, you can get to tax records by just going over here to public records to Realist. And so this will pull up a tax record here. And you can get like the parcel ID, the legal description. It'll show you last year's tax bill. So we won't have this year's till the end of the year, but if you're doing proceeds on this, it's good. You can I say estimate. If you look at the taxes year over year, they're pretty close, the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're prorating taxes, you can do that there to have an idea of that. Anyways, on blank page and calendar. So when I do sit down with them, with my clients, to kind of work on what the timing is of everything. We can work as quickly or as slow as they want. You know, typically the thing that takes the longest is probably waiting on photography these days. They can be anywhere from a week to 2 weeks out. So, you know, getting on their schedule that coordinates with sellers is pretty key. I do recommend professional photography, no doubt. Don't be the one with the cell phone pictures. I mean, even in this market, but you know, like you see homes go off the market now with, you know, under and coming soon, but it's probably because they presented the house so well, you know, that it leaves, you know, little room for error, hopefully, and people feel good about something when they see beautiful pictures and things. So the goal is also to get as many people into a listing as possible. So if you look good online, you know, more people are going to come than if you have cell phone pictures and it doesn't look so great. So I highly recommend professional photographer. And then I try to like line up measurements and that all in the same swoop. So it's like one visit instead of several for sellers. But it's not the end of the world. Measuring takes, you know, maybe 20-30 minutes inside. So it's usually pretty quick. So kind of just working on a game plan with them is like get the photography done and the measurements, you know, get all the documents done, and then timing it with if you choose to do a coming soon, or just go live at a certain date. So, you know, just working that all out so it makes sense, and having a good game plan with the sellers. They've done any changes, you might want to check out building permits or ask them if they have them. If they do, great. These you can also usually find online. If it's been somewhat recent, if it's very old, then chances are the county may not have, you know, electronic records of that kept up. These are just some more things to go through and look if it's in a flood zone. Base paint lease, we talked about these. Mortgage, security system, seller's net sheet. So this kind of helps them understand. I call it an estimate. Make sure you say estimate of proceeds, but in here under finance, you can do this seller's estimated net proceeds, and this will calculate things out for you. So that's another, you know, if you need help with that, like figuring out how to do that, we can certainly do it. Thing I was going to look for in here. There's usually a good, there's the resources where we are. Tax and GIS sites here. So this can go to different things in school websites. If you need to look up what schools are, that will help you. Showing time to input the showing instructions once, you know, you guys go live, and what those showing, what the instructions will be. Are they going to be a go and show, confirm it? Right here, this is, I was talking about that matrix input form to take with you to like have all the details in advance, like fill these out so that you, when you go to input this into MLS, it'll make your life a little easier to get these questions answered in advance, because when they are, you know, the red are required, and when they are, and you don't know it, like is it, you know, what type of something it is, then you may get held up. So
Yeah.
these are the things they're going to ask you for. So it's good to be prepared.
Okay.
So this I found in the resources here, the resources tab under MLS forms.
Okay.
So back to that. Solar net sheet, sewer, septic, we'll go over that. Survey, so we talked about that. Termite bond, this is a good one to ask them for. It is in the listing agreement if they have it. If they do have a termite bond, is it transferable to the new owners? And oftentimes they are, and there is a fee for that. It's, you know, usually a few hundred, it's like $200 to $300. If they do have a title insurance policy, great. If they don't, that's not the end of the world. That's part of what the insurance attorney will do throughout closing to help them with that. utilities list and if they have a home warranty. So sometimes if a seller already has a home warranty, i.e. I have one on my house. So if I were going to sell it, I'm like halfway through. So 6 months of that would definitely be, able to transfer over to our new buyer in that original, that policy that's already in the making.
Okay.
So if you do have something like that, you'd want to put it into the listing papers and notate it in the listing. That realist, we did that. We'll come back to this tax thing in a bit. In DocuSign, pull up one more form really quick. This is the one I use to teach the classes. This is that septic or sewer agent discovery form. It's just for our office. Unfortunately, we had a property that I think we were the listing and buying side for our firm. And I think everyone thought it was connected to water, or yes, it was city water, but it was on septic and we thought it wasn't. So when the new buyers purchased, I think they went to go put in a pool, and since there was an old septic there, they pulled it out thinking that it was not connected, and it was. So that was a big
Oh
issue.
no.
So now we have a form for that, just to make sure that we verify. So like, I just like, for instance, if it's in Charlotte, I call 311 if I don't have my seller's thing, and it's sometimes it takes 5 minutes. I call 311. I ask, hey, this is the address. Is it connected? Or if it's not, they'll tell me. And is it connected to sewer? And if it's not, is it available? So you have to put those, check it as it applies. Now, if you have no connection and it's on well and septic, then you would say they have a copy of the septic permit if they have it. Sometimes if they don't, you can call the county. And sometimes if it's an old house, they don't have any records. And so then you would have to say it's not available for whoever you spoke with, or email, or attach an email, whatever you have. Check whatever you are, if you're a listing or buyer's agent. The buyer has to sign this, not the seller. So this is the form for that. And then we'll go through the others. So we did do the working with real estate agents. That's very important on both sides. Are you familiar with Clear Cooperation?
Sorry.
It started. Okay, so this one, this is new if you were prior to 2020. But what it is it talks about when to be active in MLS and if you're coming soon, no show. So you can be coming soon up to 21 days before going active. And then if you can be a firm exclusive, which means only our office is privy to the to being advertised, or nobody. So what this might look like is, say you go meet with some sellers and they're not ready at all, but you're wanting to get the listing agreement signed. They've got a couple things that they need to do or move some stuff or stage. You can go ahead and sign your listing agreement with them as a firm exclusive, which means it will not go into MLS. And the other part of that is that we are not allowed to advertise it, whatever, not even say to your friend at Coldwell Banker, hey, yeah, I have this listing coming, or the neighbors or whoever. We have to keep it exclusive to only our firm's knowledge. Now, if it's something that you have just a couple things to tackle, or you're waiting on the photographer, perhaps that's a good time to just go coming soon, no show. It can be up to 21 days, but I'm just going to tell you, in this market, in 21 days, a lot of things happen with pricing. So, like I think some people don't like to do coming soon at all, because people are, nosy, they drive around, sometimes walk in the yard. I personally, when I had my house, I was approached a couple times to come see my house. My daughter was, anyhow. So it just depends, but no one can show the house during coming soon, no show, no one. The seller can't show it to somebody who walks up. I can't go show it to somebody who calls. So there are fines for that. I'll show you. But so, in my practice, I typically try to do a coming soon, say Monday or Tuesday, if we're going live like Thursday or Friday. And what I think it's helpful for is that build up to get all the showings going. and log, scheduled, so that, today when we went live, we had, a bunch of showings in the works instead of it wasting time on the market.
Yeah.
It's not really wasting, it's so quick right now. But anyways, so those are the different ways to go about it. So if you're, say, in your firm exclusive time, you have your listing, agreement signed with your firm exclusive agreement with that, and you do tell your friend at Coldwell Banker, or you are going to go show it to somebody, you need to get active in MLS right away. And I'll show you a form for that too. So it's just a matter of changing up your listing agreement to making it, jive with whatever is happening. So if you, are in your coming soon, your firm exclusive, or free, just go straight active. So see it right here within 1 day of public advertising.
Mhm.
So that's when you have to do that. This is our exclusive right to list and sell. This is probably the biggest part of getting, this class here today. So with that, you would put the seller's name here, and then Keller Williams Realty Valentine. And this is an exclusive right to sell. We talked about, like, on the deed, if it had changed, you don't want to look that up to make sure you have it correct, like who to put in here. Sometimes tax records are incorrect. Sometimes one seller, one seller purchased it, perhaps they got married, or perhaps they were married and then divorced. So you just want to make sure it's accurate. If one person purchased it and now they're married, you want to put both names on there, because we're in a marital rights state.
Okay.
So even if it was one person, they both have to sign to sell. So it's kind of what goes, this talks about. So the terms of the agreement that we said that they've already looked at, the working with real estate agents. The term of the agreement, so you can do it differently depending on what it is, but it's typically the effective date of this agreement that is signed by both the seller and our firm. The effective date shall end at 11/59 on the date that it expires, and this is where you put your expiration date. If the property is currently listed for sale with another firm, then the seller represents that it expires on this date, and the effective date of this agreement shall commence immediately after the expiration of the current listing. So you could put that there if it was listed with somebody else, and then you were going to be taking over the listing.
Okay.
Their address. Here, this is where I go back to the tax records. So you put whatever the address is, the PID or PIN, so property identification number. Yeah, here we go. So this is the PID, parcel information. So I usually just copy and paste. And this is the legal description, which I take from there as well. So then I just copy and paste that, and then that other legal description is what I put there. The deed and the book page, this is, recording. So if you go on the tax record down to their last sale, so it's here, this is the deed, book, and this is the page. So 146 is the page. So I would copy and paste those into this book and page number right here.
Okay.
Okay. So fixtures and exclusions. So basically anything that's attached to the house. So do read through these and make sure your seller does too, so that you guys understand what it is. But these are all transferring without any liens or I guess payments or whatever. So they're transferring to the buyer. Anything attached, so unpairing of devices. So if there's a Ring doorbell or the Nest, thermostat or any of those things, that the seller shall unpair those when they go to transfer the home to the buyer. Anything leased and not owned. So this could be like a large propane tank that fuels the house. So, like say there's no natural gas and it's propane, or say it's the alarm or satellite dishes, things like that that could be leased. You have to let those know there that they do not convey. The new buyer would have to get their own for that, or transfer it over, but then the buyer would have to take over those accounts. Other items that don't convey, so if there's anything that they don't want to stay, so like the dining room chandelier that they paid a ton of money for, it's like custom or something like that. Maybe they don't want to leave behind. So 2 ways to handle that is, of course, putting it in here so it doesn't convey, or when you first meet with them or talk to them, that's the thing. Maybe say it would be great if maybe we take it down ahead of time so no one else tries to fall in love with it. And that way also a buyer knows what they're getting, because I've seen different things. What do you just cap the outlet, or do you do you cap the outlet, or do you replace it with something else that's whatever? But at least if they see what's there, there's either none or whatever lesser of a dining room fixture now, that they'll be okay with it. They know what they're getting. Personal property, so refrigerators, washer and dryer, things like that, play sets. Can think of a lot of things, but anyways, things that would convey. So if the seller really did not want to move the refrigerator, because the new house has it or something like that, things that are big that are going to be an issue, to make sure that they convey, this is where you'd want to put that.
Okay.
So a home warranty, if they're choosing to give the buyer home warranty in advance, then you would mark that here or not. The cost of a warranty can be somewhere around $700 right now. The only great thing that might be happening is if you do have a warranty during the listing period, it often like if a buyer or a seller had something come up, they can actually have coverage during the listing period on some things. So that might be a nicety, but right now this market, I think that we don't see a lot of warranties being given. It's usually like the cleanest, quickest offer gets taken, that nets the seller the most. So asking for a home warranty is going to lessen the money in their pocket by up to $700. So I don't see a lot of them offering it these days. The listing price, this is what you guys worked out to list a home at. You check whatever's makes sense to them: cash, FHA, VA, USDA. Make sure this is there's a website you can go verify if it's able to be a USDA property. Conventional, most don't do assumption or seller financing these days. The firm's compensation, so the seller agrees to pay a total of whatever. This is the full amount to our office. So say it's 6%, then that gets divided, 3% will go to the listing agent, 3% or whatever you work out, 3% to the buyer's firm. So this is where you put that. Fee earned. So this is if we bring a ready, willing, and able buyer to the seller with an offer of full price or whatever, that we're due a commission based on doing our jobs. So that's what that means. And if this 60 days here, you can make this whatever, but if for some reason that we haven't sold the house, if within 60 days after the expiration date, the seller directly or indirectly sells basically to somebody that we've introduced them to, that they agree to pay us, the commission that's due for introducing them to that seller that they've been able to come to fruition with, or buyer, sorry. Additional compensation. So if there are bonuses, it needs to be disclosed. There's a form for that. And that could be to buyer or seller, or the listing agent or buyer's agent, but it just needs to be disclosed.
Okay.
Attorney's fees. The seller does have attorney's fees that, will be going along with that. Cooperation with other firms. So this is where we give of that 6%. This is where we're giving 3% of it to the buyer's agent. And that our firm only cooperates with buyer's agents here. We won't check the top or the bottom here because we don't work with sub agents or transaction agents. So only buyer's agents. So it's that middle one. Our duties, of course, are to represent our seller to the best of our abilities, going along with code of ethics, etc., disclosing everything. So one of the big things is we're to disclose all, present all offers, making sure that, sometimes we even get emails from investors that not even like an offer with on our forms. It's like a one-page something or other on theirs, but we have to send it over and get their feedback and then reply back anyhow. So we're going to try to find a buyer, disclose all material facts. So anything that's material fact, we have to be sure that we do that. It's for our ethic procedures to make sure we do that. Other professional services to help, make any suggestions on things that they may need, insurance, tax advisors, engineers, contractors to help them, get through their deal and everything. Providing agreement to listing service. So this is when our listing service is MLS and we put it in there. Anyways, agent. So this is the protected classes, and we're going to conduct our business with those in mind. And buyers to sellers, letters to sellers. Oh my gosh. So this is something that happens often. It's discouraged because of the protected classes, because it could give, an advantage or whatever. They just don't want to see any discrimination because of said letters one way or the other. So this just talks about that and fair housing. So there's been some discussion, I would say, within the last year about the letters to the seller. So just understand that it's kind of frowned upon. Basically, the seller acknowledges that they've been made aware of that paragraph. So marketing. So this is where it comes into like firm exclusive, coming soon, etc. We definitely want to do public marketing at some point because it gets the most exposure. So that's important. This marketing date is the date that you're going to go active. So if it's when you're working on this, if it's, you're signing this and going straight to active, great, you put that date in here. If you're signing this and you're going to do a coming soon to be active at a later date, you want to put this date here. And then you also have another place down here where it says the status of the listing shall be changed to active on that date. So these two should be the same. You're going to also have them initial here for public marketing because that's what we're going to be doing. And then using the coming soon if you are. If you're not, then don't worry about checking that, but then you'll have other things here that are. This should be checked too. If you're using a coming soon form, you're saying that there is a copy of the coming soon agreement, the form which will be attached to this agreement. And that date is the same as this date up here. Signs, if you're going to be putting a sign out, you want to put that. Open houses. I typically check these all, and if they don't want to do something, that's fine. You can change their minds later. It's perfectly okay. If they don't want to have an open house, don't check it. Internet. So if you don't want to use internet advertising, you fill out that form. Never had anyone not want to do that. It's pretty important to be out there.
Yeah.
So we talked about the firm exclusive and the coming soon forms.
Mm-hmm.
So here is where we do one or the other. So right here, if we didn't want to do coming soon, but we are filling this out and say they're going to get some stuff done in the next month, but so we're a little too soon for coming soon. Then we would use this office exclusive, and we'd have them initial here. And then we would have them do the firm exclusive form. So I'm going to just jump to these really quick. The coming soon no show. It basically says that they can be coming soon up to 21 days prior. And it kind of walks you through this. There are violations for showing. So it's saying there is a no show. And if we do show or a seller shows, these are the violations, the fines for that. We don't want to do that. So they're saying that this is required to be with, like to the MLS within a business day. If any public marketing occurs, if the listing brokerage or seller entertaining communications. So we kind of talked about that earlier. So you have one business day to get it into MLS if you have publicly advertised. This is that marketing date again, that same one we put there. That's optional when it should be listed in. This, if you're filling this out, it should probably be within that day. So once you get all these forms signed, we plan to get it submitted to MLS within a business day. So it's saying again, it cannot be shown, so the sellers have to initial there. They're also letting the seller know that it's in their best interest to get the highest possible price and terms to be having maximized exposure in the into MLS. As soon as the seller is ready for showings, they can go active, and this is when their days on market starts. Once that happens, it can, like, once they're out of coming soon into active, they can't go back to coming soon show. So if you go on, you have to be on. If you need to take it off, you would do like a temporary off the market or something like that, if there was a reason for that. So just be mindful of that when you're submitting an MLS, making sure you're clicking on the right thing so it doesn't get done incorrectly. So more initials for these things. If you relist a property, it has to basically be expired or withdrawn for more than 90 days before it can be coming soon again. So if you're taking over a listing that somebody else had, you might have to just go straight to active unless it's been off the market for a while. While it's in no show status, the seller and the listing broker shall only promote or advertise the property is coming soon. So don't be like for sale on Facebook. You need to say we're coming soon, this beautiful listing, however you want to do it, but we can't say it's already for sale. And I have heard of somebody getting in trouble for putting an open house sign out for this during the coming soon. So like, for instance, I just went live today on something. If I had put a coming soon sign in the yard with the open house, or the open house sign on Tuesday, I could have gotten in trouble. But now, once it's active, then I can do the other. So okay. I've heard that story. It seems interesting to me, but anyways, okay, while it's in, the property is not ready for showings on the marketing date, it can be placed in temporarily off the market. I just told you about that, until it's ready to be shown. So like say you day 22, it's still not ready, then you would want to go put it as temporary off the market.
Okay.
Instead of, because you can't extend that coming soon. So everybody initials it, sellers, you, and then Sabra. So you have to send this one to Sabra as well for signatures. This is the opposite of that, firm exclusive. This is the one where we're keeping it quiet and we're only telling our firm if you want to tell anybody at all, or we're not trying to market within our firm either, but just having it our own listing agreement with our sellers. You would fill this out. It has to get to Canopy within 2 business days from the effective date of signing it. This, and just FYI, it's you all sign it again, and then Sabra does too, and she's the one who will send it over. So it's with the seller address, etc. It's just saying that basically we're withholding it from MLS, and it talks about that we're share this listing with agents and brokers in their firm, allow other agents and brokers in the firm to share the listing directly with their clients and prospects through one-on-one communications. prohibited. We cannot publicly market it, flyers, signs, digital, etc. And we definitely can't show it to people outside of our firm. Yeah, so if it does occur, then you need to take it to Coming Soon or Active quickly. This should be does not authorize the brokerage to put an MLS. Oh wait, no, this could be either. So say if you sell it off market, say you have the buyer and the seller, yay, then you can put whichever, if the seller is like okay with you using it as a comp, once you close, you put it there. If not, check that one.
Okay.
So that's it on that one. I did pull up. Oh, this is it. So this is a little bit older, real quick. We want all of our forms to say 7/20 of 21 right now. It changes every July. The commission usually updates forms. So it'll have a new date on it. So do make sure when you're receiving offers or whatever that you're getting them on the correct forms, because I have seen people submit them on the wrong ones, and especially the seller's disclosure. I'm like, where'd that question go? And then it's because it's an older one. So make sure it's on the correct one, because our office will kick it back and say, please get this on the correct one. So what this is for, Sabra actually made this for us. And this is, say, if we did a firm exclusive and then we need to take it to Coming Soon, no show. This is the verbiage, and this is why I was saying I could get to you also if you need it. So this, we just amend our listing agreement and also those forms that we had. So we're just saying our firm exclusive thing dated whatever date is terminated, and this seller authorized the agent to enter it into MLS. And then this is where we'd be using that delayed marketing, and then checking, all the options on there that have to do with Coming Soon, and then the Coming Soon form. So this is an amendment to take it out of firm exclusive and go either active or to Coming Soon.
Okay.
So those are those forms that these few paragraphs are talking about. Lockbox, they do authorize us to hopefully put one on there. It's always use a Supra lockbox, and it's just much more secure. No one has the code that they can share. Only agents can use it with our thing, and it's also logged, so we know who opened it and when. That way, if there's anything that ever comes up, that we have info on that. I will say I do put a combo box on too, and it's a good thing, because today I got a call and her super box doesn't work. I don't know why, because the two agents before then it worked. So I had to give her the code so she could get in for her showing. The other fun thing is that I have had where the key had gone missing because an agent didn't put it back in. Sometimes it gets left in the pocket. To put it back in, and we had a full day of showing scheduled. So I had to jump through hoops and go get another key to the listing. So now I just put they put an extra in the combo box on there just in case something goes wrong. And then what I'll do today is, because I gave that combo out, I'm going to go change the combo.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anyone else to know it. And so that's on things to do today. So so anyways, the seller's good. That we've talked to them about unauthorized use of that. Controllers of visitors during open houses. People do take pictures and videos. It's good not to, I think you probably know this, but when you're as an agent at other people's houses, you have to have permission to post video and stuff like that if you're going to do something of that nature, of a listing that's not yours. Anyways, just basically keeping things private. But anyways, it can be placed on the internet, and it gets furnished to their property, placed on the internet through other listing services, can be inaccurate or dated, but not limited. So the photos and stuff we are going to be using is going on there. Definitely recommend all of valuables get put away or removed. Even medications, I've heard of some stories. I've been very blessed that none of that's happened, but I do inform people to put away things that are, can be lifted. It's amazing to me too, showing sometimes I see people's like watch displays or, the iPads sitting out, things like that. Just, put stuff away because you just don't want to have any incidents.
Mm-hmm.
This is important. I tell this to my buyers, my sellers, but also my buyers when we're looking at houses. They're not supposed to record or listen in on anybody. But we know, like in most houses, big brothers everywhere, alarm system securities, etc. So there's video cameras, etc. They can video, they can watch, but they're not supposed to be listening in to conversations. But I don't know that we can promise that's not happening.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of conversations that you have, in houses, and do let your sellers know they're not supposed to be listening. And you told them, and they saw this. So earnest money, our firm does not hold earnest money any longer. So this goes typically to the attorney these days, and they're usually the ones that hold the earnest money. It gets applied to closing because sometimes sellers think that they get that, but they don't. They get the due diligence fee. So if there is a dispute, it has to be agreed upon by both parties as to how that money is distributed. And if it's not, it goes to the clerk of courts to have them decide. Typically by contract, if a buyer backs out during the due diligence period, they're due back their due diligence or their earnest money. So it's usually cut and dry, but some people aren't always cooperative. So that's what that's talking about, how it's handled. Has a seller owned it for a year or not, or does not own the property? The does not own the property does happen. I recently, an investor was purchasing the property, hadn't closed on it yet, but I was already had it on the market. So,
oh my goodness.
I know. Bankruptcy, hopefully the seller is not under bankruptcy or not contemplating it. So these two, if they are, yes, it's good to go talk to a bankruptcy attorney probably on how to proceed correctly. It's a very different ball of wax once you get to that point. Property has legal access to a public right of way. There is or is not an agreement for the maintenance of the road. I have seen some shared driveways around, so it's good to have knowledge of how the shared driveway is maintained and what that all means. If it's a manufactured home, you'd want the VIN here. Owners association, so like the HOA, who it is, a number for that. Receipts of sample forms, we talked about this earlier, that sample offer to purchase and professional services disclosure. So you already provided them with that, so you check those. Flood hazard disclosure. If there is if they're in a floodplain, then you would want to mark this as it is, or if they're not, that's good too. And if they maintain flood insurance. If it's synthetic stucco, you would put that here. If it's not, then you just put NA. Termite bond, if there is or is not one, if it's transferable, if you know what the cost is and the company. Liens on the property, so this is like a mortgage, and they may have one or two. I don't usually get too much info on here just because that's the attorney collects this. It's good to kind of have an idea of what the balance is, just especially when you're talking about proceeds. Right now, most sellers are probably, getting more for the properties than they have in a long time. So hopefully there should be good, profit there. However, in other markets and depending on their spending habits, it could be really close. And so it's good to make sure that they're going to have a profit and nobody has to bring money to closing, because that's a really bad moment when they figure that out late in the game. It could also hold up a deal. So it's good to have an idea about balances. If it sounds like we're getting close there, probably a good idea to get all the real numbers and payoff information to make sure that it's gonna work, or what the bottom line is that you need to sell at to make it work. So anyways, that's what that is. And typically you just kind of know the lender name and the approximate balance, but you don't need all the things. So yes, any liens, and this can be more than just a mortgage. They can be tax liens. Just closed one last week where there's judgments for medical bills, other things like that that hadn't been paid. So anyways, those will be found out. But if you do know ahead of time, it's usually good. If there's a lease on the property, if it is, then what that information is, FHA appraisal. Hopefully there's not been one. If there has been, you need to know that. Special assessments, fuel tank. This is, if they had that propane tank on there, then you would check that if it's in use or not in use, what type it is, etc. If it's, leased, or who the vendor is. And sometimes, actually, this is probably, yes, owned or leased, but if it is owned, then you kind of need to know the fuel in it, and how that is conveyed to the buyer as well. Okay. The property disclosure, the mineral oil. So basically they're gonna give everything accurate and true on their disclosures, covenants on the property's bylaws, owners association title policies. We talked about all that. If there's anything that would prohibit the seller from conveying simple or fee simple marketable title, you'd need to hopefully know about that, put it here. Hopefully that'll be NA. Anything, if it's a short sale, there's another form for that, and probably another class. So yeah. Anyhow, home inspections, if the seller agrees or does not agree to do a pre-home inspection, like prior to listing. And then the question and answers of home inspections that we also sent them. Photography, other materials, this will all take place. Like we said, we do the photo, video, and all that, but it's just letting them know that it's going to be out there. Any other terms or conditions that go along with this, and you would put that there. Dual agency, this is where our firm here at KW Valentine can be both roles, buyer and seller. You can. So that means we represent the buyer and the seller, and that we will, do our due diligence to represent both parties fairly, not giving anyone an advantage. And being a dual agent, so we would mark this top one that the seller authorizes the firm to act as a dual agent, which is important because we have such a large office. Hopefully lots of listings that we're going to be showing our buyer, or our sellers or buyers. So we want to be able to be dual agencies on both buyers and listing agreements. Otherwise, if they mark no, that means nobody else from our office could show it, which wouldn't be helpful. Designated agent, this is when you're representing the seller and I have the buyer. So then we would go back once we get under contract, or signing everything, we would go back to our agreements. You do the listing agreement, I do my buyer's agreement, and we both would have to have everybody initial this designated agent, because we'd be designated for each party.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what this basically says there too. Mediation, if there's a dispute, that they agree to start that. Wire fraud, this is on every single one of our forms. Buyer's agency, listing agreement, and then again in our contract. It's huge these days, so please, 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 very careful. Notify your clients that in order to wire any money to a party, like say the attorney's office, you definitely need to call and verbally get those instructions and verify them. A lot of things happen or intercepted and then I guess replayed by wrong parties, that then money gets sent to the wrong place, and it's not a good day. So that's why there's this half a page in red. anyways, and here we just finish this out with their information and your information, and everybody signs and initials all the pages, and then you are hired. Yeah. Other forms that we use for the listing period is the lead-based paint. If it's built prior to 1978. There's also a pamphlet that goes with this. It's the Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. It's also in DocuSign. And it's just asking the seller if they have any knowledge of lead-based paint or records of it that they would want to, mark properly here, and then they initial. This also then gets signed by the buyer. And here is where they, would say they saw it, that they've received said pamphlet as well. And then they can accept the opportunity during due diligence to conduct a risk assessment, or they waive it. So whichever they choose, then they initial, everybody initials. The listing agent has to initial here that they've informed the seller of their obligations, and then buyer seller sign, as well as the agents do on this one.
Okay.
So letting them know that we've told them of that. This is the residential property disclosure. I'm going to back up for 1 second. Remember how I said at the bottom of the forms it says this? So 7/21 is our most recent.
Mm-hmm.
So soon it'll say 7/22. On this one, it's down here. So this was revised in August of 21. So on this is a residential property disclosure, and it's basically asking the seller if they have any knowledge of anything not working or not functioning as intended. So they would mark appropriately. There is a yes, a no, or a no representation. It's very important that they are accurate and honest. And if anything's a yes, they have to explain it here as to why. Or I say it depends on what it is, but if it's a yes and it can be fixed, let's go get it fixed prior to doing that. But anyways, so it's asking actual knowledge, and it's right now. So if they had, the bathroom sink faucet was broken and they fixed it, then they wouldn't have to mark it on here. It's not happening right now. So year that it's constructed, the type of home. So this is asking if there's any defects with all these things. If there are, then they would mark yes, even if it's one of them, and then say what it is. Hopefully everything's no, that will be great. It asks for age of the systems. This is where we sometimes get a lot of questions because they don't know some of these things, like which one do I have, especially on pipes. And so if they don't know, just say unknown, because we may not know that for them either. If it, connected city water, sewer, if it's septic, some of these won't apply, but then most of them will. So once you get down to this point, this is the HOA questions. A lot of times, so you put the HOA and their payment information here. And a lot of times you'll see here that there's fees transferred to properties, and sometimes sellers don't even know, but it's good to verify, to reach out to the HOA prior to listing something, or I don't know, even if you have a buyer going somewhere, but asking the HOA if there's any fees in connection with purchasing or transferring the property, because in a lot of them there are what they call capital contribution fees. It's like a welcome fee to the buyer. So I know the one I'm currently working on right now, it's $500 fee. I've seen them up to $1,200 and some as low as like a couple hundred. They also have, I'm finding on every transaction these days, HOAs are charging somewhere between like $100 to $250 to transfer in and out of each buyer and seller's names, the account. So on top of the capital contribution to the HOA, the management fee are charging each buyer and seller. So there's fees involved. And so it's good to kind of know, so people aren't, like, oh my gosh, I just have to pay $700 to the HOA. Welcome.
Okay.
So this talks about what's covered by those management fees, HOA fees, and that's about it on this one. And then we go to, this is the MOG, mineral oil and gas rights. So the seller marks these and they really should be no or no representation. This is asking if the mineral oil and gas rights have been severed from the property. So like there was a builder who built homes on this property that they did sell off the mineral rights to prior to that. So somebody else had the oil and gas rights to your house, let's say, they could come do that, which was a big problem. So now we have a form for it. So hopefully it should be no, and no representation, that they've not sold it off or the previous owner hasn't sold it off or severed them. It's kind of about it on that one. I think I want to go back. Matrix. So let's just go look at a listing. I'm just gonna pull it up. So when we go list our house and put in all these things and upload our pictures, and that's probably another class itself and getting everything in there, but you want to attach things. Yay, they're there. So on this one, you know, there's CC&Rs that you ask the seller for that you can put up there. They have an appraisal addendum they're asking for. Proposed amendment, HOA financials, ideal offer. They're very detailed, but this is where you put you want to make sure you get your disclosures in here to have a buyer be able to do that. Oftentimes, and I do if I have them, measurements, survey, all the disclosures you'll want to put in here, just to make it just to make it have everything that everybody's going to need to make a great offer. Like I was talking about earlier, tax records. This is that PID that you put in there, but this is what goes directly to kind of what we were just looking at. So we can pull that up and we can, see the last sale. They purchased it for $408 back in 2006. What the tax bill is currently, things like that, things that we may need to know. And then also on here, so you could do it there too, history. So you can see if it were listed before or whatever, or previous pictures and stuff like that if it were a while. So anyways, any questions that you have for me on this?
I don't think so. I think you were pretty
Okay.
thorough.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Let's see. Make sure. Oh, another thing that I guess it's not on there, but it's probably a good idea to put on there. When you go for your appointment to meet with the sellers, along from having all this, it's very important to have your CMA for pricing. We didn't talk about that at all, but so for CMA, you can do a quick CMA, just like a snapshot of the neighborhood or whatever, and then there's a better way to go in and just do a detailed one where you make adjustments for conditions or what they might have, or or somebody else did or didn't, as to other comparable properties in the subdivision or nearby. Sometimes there's not a lot of data with right in somebody's said neighborhood. You have to kind of expand a little, but that's a whole other hands-on class, but that's important to have with your listing package when you go to meet with them, because everybody wants to know that. A lot of folks do things on their computer right now. Like when I meet with people, it's more digital than it is with papers, unless I need to kind of set everything out for certain folks. But I do like to, get my spreadsheet on there, and then, go through the different things of how I did that. And then also when you're on your laptop or whatever, it's easy to click on other listings and look at all their photos if they need to with them
Mhm.
to talk about the properties and how they compare with each other present, which is, I think, very important. So anyhow, but anyways, I would definitely include that in my listing package meeting with the sellers. That's pretty
Okay.
important. Also with your marketing. That's not on there either. So what are you going to do to market their property? You know, that's important. So that's part of your listing presentation. Probably would be in that. So that's, you know, you'd want to talk about that, a little about yourself and things like that to meet with them.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you think of
Awesome.
any other questions, reach out to me. I can email you any of those things that you need too.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Nice to
Well,
see you,
thank you
Katie.
so much for your time today. Nice meeting you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Take care.